now we have a way to access the database and get some information for the user to see in a form that's not a message box. We can now start on part 2 of the user interactions. So if I first load up what we have at the moment, last video we put together this form and you have the student's information down here, and that's all in this list of buttons here. So now we're going to start looking at actually being able to hover over the buttons, click them, and have the student's information come up here. So let's close this again and open up the form. And now first thing we want to do is, these are all text boxes I have here. So let's make an array of these text boxes that we can access. So if we just have a bit here, just out in the class at the moment, and do private text box, and let's do this array called text or student info text boxes, and we can set this equal to, we've got the name, so we want the student's name. Actually no, so let's do this inside the setup here. Oh wait, there we go. Let's put this inside the setup here. There we go. So we've got the actual instance of the array out here, and then we can define the values inside the form one load up bit. So now if we look at the bits here, we've got student name txt. So we want name, so student name txt. We want student Okay, let's define this inside the class here. Sorry, inside the method. There we go. And now let's see what else have we got. We've got student name, student info. I've got to find what I've called it now. Oh, class and age, that's why. Need to get better at naming these. So we want class and age txt. We want now to look at these. So we've got age txt, I'm guessing. Or no, just age. So let's do age. We've got class. And let's change this to class 1 actually. Now there's been a slight change. So we want class 1. We can copy this. So we have class 2. And then we can add class 3. Let's just do class 2. And then we can have class 3 up here. So class 3. Change lowercase, there we go. And let's go into here and do class 1, class 2, class 3. This can be a bit of a tiring part and time consuming part here. Okay. Okay, slight bit I forgot about. Actually put the square brackets on here, otherwise it's not an array. Forgot to do that. Silly mistake. I was a bit confused what was going wrong there. Anyway, so now we've got class 3 as well, and we can stick with that for now. So now, when we click on the student, we want to have a way to first hover over a student button. So let's do a private void, and let's call it hover on. And Now set this up to also take in a student class type of button. Okay, and now we want to do button dot back color equals, and then we also want to do a private color, and let's have this equal to, sorry, let's have this as normal student button color. Let's equal that to, actually no, let's just have that as blank for now. And then we want to do, when this starts up, let's do, well actually we can set it up in here even. We can put at the end of here, just as a little bit, normal student backcolor dot backcolor, sorry, equals student dot color. Sorry, that back color. So that will, when you set up the student button, it will set the back color, basically whatever you have this student back color as normally, as the regular back color. And you don't really need to put it there because that updates it every single time you add a new student, but it's just easier for if you wanted to change it on startup. So now we can do equals, and then we want a hover color. So let's do a private color, and let's do hover student button color. There we go. So now this color we want to actually define when we start up. So let's do equals color dot, let's do, where is it? I don't remember what it's called now. Oh, for my ARGB, there we go. And let's look at a color. So let's see what we have. We want to make something that isn't too dark, but could be a good hover color. So let's look at maybe that, I'd say. That seems good. So let's copy that. And let's save all this first. And then go back to here and enter these ARGB values. And now we can do button.backColor equals hover. And then we also want, so we can have more information here after for when you hover. That's only for now that we're just going to change the back color. But let's also do a private void hover off. We want to take in a student button, and let's do button dot back color equals normal student button back color. There we go. So now we actually want to set up the events for these methods. So this is just what happens, but now we want to actually say when these happen. So when we actually add the student and we do the add student method, let's add, before we add it to the controls, let's do a little bit here and do student dot on, so dot hover, mouse hover, and let's set this to the event of hover on. Okay, and let's change this actually around a bit because we need to do an object. Just call this sender as they normally do, and an event argument. Let's call it E as you normally do as well. I'm doing it like this because this is how it normally follows it when you do these. So let's also do that here. Okay. And now we want to look at converting the sender into a student button instead. So let's keep that, and let's up here do a new student button. So student, and we're just going to call it student, or no, let's call it button. And then we want to take the sender, which is the object that is sending the, like, kind of sending the message in a sense. It's calling upon the method. and that will be the sender, which will be the button itself, or the user control in this case. But the user control is named student, so we're doing it a new student, which we're going to call button, of a new instance, and we're going to have that as a type of student. So we're going to convert the sender into the type student. Now, we will have to change this method slightly later, as at the moment it will only be when you hover over the actual form in itself, in a sense. So when you hover over this back area. But later we can do it so it can also be sent with when you hover over the labels, and then it can convert it after that, but we need to account for that. So for now, we're just going to do it like this, which is quite simple. And we can copy that and do it in here as well. There we go. So let's actually remove that space. So now we've got that set up, we can then also in here put student dot leave. So we want mouse leave. Let's give that event of hover off. There we go. So now if we test this, when we hover over, it makes it a slightly darker color, and then when you leave, it goes off again. So that's perfect for the hover method, and now we can start looking at actually clicking on the buttons, as they do nothing at the moment. So there's two ways we could do this. Again, it's all for looks, but we could do, when you click on the button, it highlights that one a slightly different color again, while that one's active. However, in this case, we might not need to do that. It's optional, and I might cover it if it's wanted for me to cover it. However, as it has the student's name here, there's not much need for that. So for now I'm going to leave that out, and I might include it again in another video if it's wanted. So for now we're just going to do, when you actually click on it, it will load the information. So now we want a new method down here. And again, you can pause and play this video as I go to keep up with it if you want. But for now, I'm just going to go straight on to a new method which will have click student. There we go. So when we click on the student, we want to add a new. So we want to do click. So it's a new event. We'll click, and we're going to do click student. So we want the same object sender event arguments. I'm going to call it E. Now we want to do the same method again of converting the sender into a student button, and you can copy it, but I'm going to write it out again. So let's do student, let's do button, or clicked button equals, and then convert the sender into a student. There we go. Now in here we want to get the location of this. So we want to get what student was clicked. And there's multiple ways we can do this. And for the time being, since there could be multiple students with the same name, I'm not going to go by the method of doing the name. But instead I'm going to go into the student's design, into the student's code here, and make a new public integer. I'm going to have it as the ID. Let's just have it as blank at the moment. It's null. And now when we're in the form, when we update the information, let's do student dot ID equals convert int 32. Let's do an int 32, and let's do data to the I, 0. Since we're doing the 0 index, since that's ID, as in here. So now let's put this at the start actually to make it nice and easy to see, and let's also put all that inside its own little encapsulated area here. There we go. Just to kind of separate it all so it's easier to see. And let's also add this update feature into here, because that's to correlate with that. Okay, so now we want to get the ID, so let's do int student ID equals clicked button dot ID, and since we have it as a student button, we can access ID because it knows that will be a variable that is inside the button. So let's do click button.id, and then we can do a string array, so a 2D array, and let's have this as data again. And let's do read, so let's do server.read, and we want to read the SQL database, however we want to read it in a specific location. So we want to read where this time. So we want server.database, we want the table name of students. Is it students or student? Students, sorry. And then we want the column names. And let's get all the data in there. So let's use the same columns as here. So columns. And then we want read where to be true. And we want the condition of ID to equal student id.toString. There we go. So now we're reading the we're reading the entry where the student ID is equal, where the ID is equal to the student's ID that we've put into the actual button itself as a variable. So now we can actually read the data of that specific student. So now let's do message box, just to test this, message box.show. So we want to check as we go along that everything works. So student, and let's get data to the 0 because we're only reading a single entry, so it'll be 0 because it'll be the first index, and let's do 1, so we're getting their full name. And let's run this, and when we click on it we should get the student's full name if this works. So let's try Iris Watson, and we got Iris Watson. Let's try Jonathan West, and we get Jonathan West. So this is a good start for this now. So now we can start looking at actually implementing this data. So, and showing it. So now that's just showing it in a message box, but let's look at doing it through here. So we want the student's name, which we called student name txt, txt.text to equal data to the 0, 1. Let's do student txt, sorry. Let's see. Or student ID, student panel. No, it was class, wasn't it? Class and age txt.text to equal, and let's do $, and then we can do age, and we want data to the 0, 2, as that's the second index, because remember we've got 0, 1, 2, and then let's also put, actually no, we don't need any more information at the moment, we can keep it at that, so we can just have the student's age. So now let's run this, and when we click on the student, it changes it to that, and when we click on the other student, it changes it to that. So this all updates correctly now. So you can see how easily we can now start adding more and more information. So let's go ahead and go to, we want to do the age, so let's do age.txt equals, and then let's do it like this. And let's copy this because we'll be using this quite a lot. So we want age, and again, data to the 0, 2. So this is now affecting the value here instead. We've just got a copy of that at the moment because we've also had the class up there. So we want class1 dot text to equal, paste that. Let's do class1 so data. So actually this is where it will change a little bit. So we have the class index, sorry, the class ID, but we don't actually have the class name itself. So this is where things will change around a bit. So now we want to do, let's put this in its own separate little encapsulated method here. And let's do string array of class data. And we can change this instead of data to student data. And let's have class data here. And we want to do equals SQL, sorry, server. We want to read the server and do read data. And let's see, we want server.database. We now want a different table this time. So if we go back to our method, we want to look at the classes. And we have the classes table here. So let's look at classes. And then we want the column names. So let's do a new string array and call it classes columns. And let's excuse me. And let's have this as we need ID. What else do we need? We need name and teacher ID. So this will actually get all the information now and put this into what we need. So it will put it into a string array, sorry. So we want, what was it? We want name. And then we want teacher ID. I'm guessing that's got a space in there. And let's put this classes array in here. Or classes columns, sorry. And then we don't want to read in a specific location, so let's say false. Again, this will be set up possibly differently for you, but if you've been following this bit by bit, you'll know I've got this as a method, so I can easily just read and write data, and I have a way to read in a specific location, or read just a whole table. So let's have this as blank or null if you want to. So this will give us a new database. This is the same way we've done the students bit up here. However, it will read it and enter it with this. So actually, we could probably get away with putting all this in its own area as well. So they're both separate from each other. And now we can do class data to the I. Wait. We do want to read in a certain location, sorry, that was my bad. We want to read in a specific location, and that's where ID There's two ways we can do this actually. We could do it so it reads it each time. Or we could do it a different method. So we could do it where the ID equals and then we don't need to... Ooh, there's multiple ways this can be done. Let's put this... Let me think about how we can do this. We put this in a separate piece here for now. We want to do it for class 1, 2, and 3. So that will be... Actually, we do want the student's data back, sorry. And we want this outside because we want to be able to access that. So we want to have a for loop, I would say. Yeah, I'd say we'd want a for loop going through each one. We want to do all three of them. So, let's do a int array for now. This could change. I haven't thought ahead for this bit. But let's do an integer array and have it so it's class IDs, or just class ID equals, and then we can do data. So let's do convert to int 32. We don't really need to convert it. We can have it as a string if we really wanted to, but I think it would be easier to convert it. It saves any spaces that could appear as you go through. So let's convert it and let's do data to the 0, comma, and we want 0, 1, 2, 3, third index. And let's do the same bit again for the next one and the next one. 0.4, 0.5, and we don't want data bindings. What's happened there? Student data. Sorry, there we go. Okay, and now we want to do a for loop here. Let's have all this in here, and we want to do class ID dot length, and we want to go through and do class ID to the I.toString. Okay, and that will give us 0, comma, and then we're reading with that being there, so 0, comma 1. There we go. So doing this will mean, okay, so we want class, let's have this start. Okay, so we want I plus 1 in here. And we also want a text box array of the classes as well. And we could go from here, so 0, 1, 2, 3. If we go from the third one, we could end up doing, we have, oh, so that's the columns. We want to do the student info text boxes. So we want to do student info. We can't access it from there because it's in here. Let's put this into here, sorry. I'd say up at the top. Keep it separate. We can make it look nice later. Student info text boxes to the I plus, and let's do third one, yeah. So let's do I plus 3. Okay, yeah, there's probably a better way of looking at this actually. But let's go with this for now and see how this goes. And this should all work correctly if I'm right. Let's have a look. If I click on Iris Watson, she is computer science, physics and maths. Jonathan West, maths, physics, computer science. Okay, yeah, that all works correctly. We can then make this so maybe, I'm trying to think ahead. We could make it so when you click on computer science or class 1, it says what teacher it is, or we could do it where it says the teacher next to it. Which I think it's saying where what the teacher is next to it would probably be a better option. So let's quickly add that now. So let's also do, we want to do another string array, and let's do teacher data. And we want to do in teachers, oh, we want a capital T on there. And how do we have the teachers one set up? We have that set up with the ID and full name. So we want to do it where ID is equal to, and this time we want to do class data of 0, comma, and we want to get the teacher's ID, which is 0, 1, 2. So 0, 1, 2 there. And then that toString. And now if we put a space there, and then we can do the teacher. So let's do teacher data of the 0, comma 1. There we go. And now let's save that, go to the form, and let's slightly shrink down this text, I'd say, because size 14 is probably a bit big, since we're going to have all, that's a bit too small now. So let's do size 11, I'd say, and have a look at that, see how that looks. So let's run Iris Watson, failed to read data. Okay, so it didn't manage to read, I know, we forgot to add a second lot of columns here, so let's do feature columns, then we can get rid of that bit on there, and we want to put teach columns into here. Can't believe I forgot that. There we go. Click on that. Is it not called teach column? Wait. Full name. There we go. This will work now. There we go. So it doesn't actually fit on, which is a bit of a problem. So we need to fix that now, I'd say. So let's make this a bit wider on either side, and then we want to lengthen these to the same width as that. And now let's run this. So this can be set up however you want, but there we go. Now we have Iris Watson, age 17. It has an age, it has class 1, computer science, which is done by James Blakeman, class 2, physics, which is done by Karen Harper, and class 3, maths, which is done also by Karen Harper. And we could also do times in the day that they do these, and we could set up a table to look at the times in the day. So I'm going to do that in the next video. It shouldn't take too long. I might just have that in the next video alone. And that will just be another table going for the exact same method. So if you want, you can skip that. And for this one, I'm going to leave it like this. We also might not keep this look. We might change this. I've done a more kind of vertical look, and I've got it so it just kind of has all the information in a list. This could change, however, dependent on what's liked and not liked. So that'll be it for this video. In the next one, I'll do a table for times quickly for the periods of the day, and then we can finish on that for now. And there may be another video explaining some different parts if that's wanted.